So hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be looking at the Middle East and like the time when it was all like what happened in the Middle East, the history and how it became this. Well, you can read it yourself. But so Turkey, Syria, Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Oman, and Kuwait, and some of these countries that I haven't written are gonna be like what we are mainly focusing on. Although I am gonna give different other countries like this all references in this video. So look at the map also. And this is another video. I just gave the explanation, so let's go into it. So all life first began in Egypt and Iraq. These two settlements. Now let me just get away how Egypt works, because this is a video about the Middle East and Egypt is technically Middle East. So Egypt actually was a large jungle. Like Africa was a large jungle back then. There was no Sahara Desert. Every now and then, every couple of millennia, actually Egypt becomes like Egypt or the Sahara Desert becomes actually green. So that's the reason why they settled down then. And Iraq, mainly because of its main water source here. I forgot what this river is called, but whatever. So this river is why Mesopotamia came to be. Okay, so that's it. That's like the beginning history of Iraq. Now after that, Persia conquered it. A lot of different things have happened, which we are gonna cover, including the Ottomans and all of the history. So this is gonna be a big thing. Now Iran, back then known as Persia, so it's Persia, was actually invading Iraq. They wanted to become the world's first ever empire. It's not an empire. It's technically a kingdom that wants to be really expansive because it doesn't have enough resources. So that's the thing, because empire was first set on Rome. Well, technically it's not. Empire wasn't even set on Rome, but whatever. So Iraq was invaded. Then it was taken by a couple of other countries, like including I think Armenian Empire. There was a lot of different ancient things that took over Iraq. So after then, like we are already into the Middle Ages. Iraq did not get anything that well on its entire life. Now the Ottomans. This is finally getting interesting. So here's Turkey. Turkey was the biggest thing in the Middle Ages, but it wasn't known as Turkey back then. It was known as the Byzantines. The Byzantines were the Greek Empire, so they weren't even from Anatolia. Anatolia being the land where Turkey is today. So they were there. They had Greece. They were the remains of the Western Roman Empire. From the Roman Empire, they were the remains. Now this is an interesting story about Charlemagne and everything. So here's the story. Now the Holy Roman Empire, which is like around here, a lot of historians will know about it. The Holy Roman Empire actually was known as the Roman Empire because of the Pope. Listen, the Holy Roman Empire is very complicated. It's not holy, it's not Roman, it's not empire either. I'll explain to you that. So Germany actually was the Germany wasn't the Holy Roman Empire, it was actually France. They were known as the Frank Empire back then. They took over all of this part and become the Western Empire, and the Western Empire eventually started to become a Holy Roman Empire. It was known as the New Roman Empire back then. So the New Roman Empire was known as became the Holy Roman Empire because the Pope was crowned them as one. Actually, they made them holy, but they didn't make them empire because the person took it. This made the Byzantines very angry because Charlemagne wasn't gonna become an emperor. Since she was a woman, empresses weren't a thing back then. So the Byzantines weren't an empire. So now that's the explanation of it. But that's the explanation of the Middle East essentially, and why the Ottoman Empire will come to be. There's actually an interesting scenario where the Ottomans colonized America instead of the British. That's an interesting scenario, but we won't talk about that. So the Ottomans became just a couple of rebels and insurgents. They were starting to fight over Anatolia, and then eventually, with one of the most brutal fighting in the centuries, actually like later in the history, in the Middle East is where the most brutal fights happen. Actually, I need to add something to this map. Hold on, give me a second. Okay, yeah, that's it. Okay, so the thing that happened, like I was saying, is that the Middle East was like the most violent area in all of like mankind. Like this is the most violent land. Like you can't live here most of the time because of wars. So like it's in the middle of the map, it's everything. But why is Europe then not that war? Like so that we'll have to talk about it later. So after the fall of Constantinople and everything that happened, including Casablanca and everything that happened there, Istanbul, and how they conquered the Balkans, they conquered everything here. Iraq was in the hands of the Turks. So this was an important thing that would happen in World War II. Yes, we are already into World War II. You might be wondering why I'm skipping so many parts, because really nothing happened. Really nothing happened in most of Iraq's history, Syria's history, Iran's history. Actually, let's go back. Iran. So Iran had been Persia in the like 19th and 18th centuries, and they wanted to become that empire again. So they tried to take over a bunch of things, but they couldn't. So that's the thing. The Ottomans, let's go to World War I now, because it's actually what we want to talk about, because nothing has happened yet. So, there's a big dispute going on I forgot what the name of this territory is, but basically, East France, like it's just East France. So it's just East France, like this area of France. You people already know it's like it's north of Corsica and everything. So this was in the first Franco-German war. It was taken by the Germans, and this really angered France. So like they were really angry on that they did this. So what they did, they were like, wait, well, we are gonna declare war on you and do some revenge one day. Then Russia was like, oh wait, what the heck? Franz Ferdinand died, and thus they're blaming it on Serbia's government and they're taking war. Well, I am the protector of the Balkans. You see, Balkan wars, you have to read yourself. But then they just declare war on Austria-Hungary. Germany being Germany, with the Allies attacked Russia. And then France was like, well, this is the perfect moment to gain this part back. They got that. They declared war again, and then they did a bunch of stalemate fighting, trench warfare, a lot of different things happened. Actually, trench warfare was actually used in World War II, so not about that. But then Germany was like, oh wow, they had constructed a wall. What do? We invade Netherlands and Belgium to go and destroy them. At this point, let's look at the tactics of Russia. So Russia's tactics are very interesting because I have to do some story. So Russia will normally retreat from areas and they burn down the cities alongside it, which is devastating. Alongside Napoleon's tactics and a lot of other tactics, someone who has this flag would be able to take over the world later. This flag. So that is it. For now, World War I is happening, but now that they destroyed Belgium, UK was like, hey, I'm trading with Belgium. What the heck are you doing? Why are you taking over our trade? Well, I'm doing nothing, so Germany said. So UK declared war. And after that, we roll the rest of the story. Like everyone knows what happened after World War II. Now, interestingly, the Ottomans joined in, which was very interesting now because Saudi Arabia's history is from the Ottomans. So at this point, the Middle East had been devastated because Europeans were the real ones that were controlling the Middle East. So Middle East was like in between Europe and Russia and Asia. Sorry. And now after all the war happened, there was a problem. You see, British and French had been saying, "Hey, we'll create a united Middle East nation if you help us fight the Ottomans." So the Ottomans just they fought, and after that war, the British took Iraq, Jordan, Israel for themselves, and the French took Syria. What did we get there? So Saudi Arabia was really angry at them. So after that, there will be some things happening later. They tried warring, but they couldn't win, obviously, against the British Empire. How can you win against the British and French Empire? They literally have 90% of all land on planet Earth. How can you do that? So after this, the Soviet Union had formed, and there was already a lot rivalry starting with the Soviet Union and USA. Well, that was happening. So now there's an interesting situation where Turkey is just a UN zone. So Turkey took independence by force, and then World War II came, and basically the same thing happened. Except now decolonization happened, which was helpful for all of these countries here, which now got their independence. So now that they got their independence, the Middle East was starting to form like what it is today. Oh, the Cold War World War III is happening? What the heck? How did this happen? Like, how did the rivalry happen? So this happened because the Cold War fought in multiple fronts, but most interesting was the Middle East. The West was the West always, and the East was the Soviet always. But why? So this is an interesting scenario now. So Iraq, let's look at how the war between Iraq and Kuwait happened. So the war between Iraq and Kuwait happened because of coastline. They only had like 3 kilometers of coastline. Iraq and Kuwait mainly blocked them. So what? They made Kuwait, right? But that was an American partner. They still did it, but later. The second reason is because of oil inflation. This oil inflation now happened because now the Iraq's economy is 90% just oil, right? That's the first problem of Iraq. So now, if any other countries raise their prices up to oil and Iraq couldn't, then they would just win. Say a certain country which is below Iraq did that, and that would have been devastating. Okay, so now that Iraq is fixed with what they have done, just the second biggest invasion in history, Operation Desert Storm happened, and they took over. That's it short. But another reason Iraq was so angry to its neighbors were this: the waters that supplied old Mesopotamia took actually now in the sources of Turkey and Syria. So they built dams and devastated Iraq. That's the thing about Iraq. Now, Iraq, Israel and Palestine. There is other topics here, including the Yemen war and the Cold War on the Middle East, which I'll talk about later. But let's first talk about our second main subject, Israel and Palestine. So this is very, very big because Israel and Palestine actually were in a kind of a dispute. So Palestine actually was taking over like Palestine was actually like the old Israel state. Jews were coming here when the World War II happened. because Poland was took it over, and thus everybody went to Israel. And now there's a Jew state. Why? So now, since this happened, everybody attacked Israel, all the Muslim nations, and well, there's still a dispute today. There also the Suez Canal was taken over for a short time, but that's not a big thing. Let's go to our last subject because it's a long video, and I also have other videos to look at. The Cold War, the mini Cold War. You see, Saudi Arabia has the center of Islam technically. So because Medina and Mecca is inside Saudi Arabia and its territory falls inside it, which is the big cities of Islam. Most of you guys will know that because of, well, you're probably also following Islam. But there's also a certain miscommunication issue made Iran become actually Iran the center of Islam, because the Iran people thought about that. Oh yeah, what about Iran? How did Persia turn into Iran? How did Persia turn into Iran? Yeah, Iran actually just in a Persian party, just everybody took out the Iran dictator. It's that simple. Okay, so it's now so E was the dictator's name and he ran, obviously. So now there's a Cold War. Now only the Shia nations, Syria, Iraq, and these countries were supported by Iran. For example, there's a Sunni rebellion in Syria that's taking over the Shia Muslim government. And then there's the opposite thing going on in Yemen. There's a Shia government, there's a Sunni government, and the Shias are taking it out. So that's essentially what happened. Alongside, well, Burj Khalifa and the obelisk, there's a new project of Egypt's capital, which I don't want to talk about because it's modernization. So that's it, I think. There's a lot of stuff here. I'm making an advanced life tree, so I'll tell that later. So for now, that's it. Bye. See you next time.